Welcome back, beautiful people. It's your TTA Pro, Mr. O, back with a digital SAT episode. Today, we're going to cover verb tenses, future tense, and modals. When you're done watching the video, make sure you jump into the practice. So let's begin with future tense verbs and modals. We want to make sure we cover everything related to verbs. I'm going to skip the introduction. Obviously, if you're taking your digital SAT or EST or ACT, you need to understand your verbs very well. So let's actually begin here. Some notes, questions, and answers, and then we're going to be practicing together. When do we use future tense? Future tense verbs are used to describe actions or events that will occur in the future. So here's a step-by-step method to determine when to use each future tense. Number one, step one, identify the time frame of the action or event. Is it a simple future action with no specific time? Will the action be completed before a specific future time? Will the action be ongoing at a specific future time? So you have to ask yourself, will it have no specific time, before a specific time, or during a specific time? Now, you have to make sure you choose the appropriate future tense based on the time frame. So simple future actions use future simple tense will plus verb. I will call you tomorrow. Okay? So they're for simple future actions. For actions that will be completed before a specific time, you will use will have. By the time you arrive, I will have finished. So again, when you're talking before a specific time, by the time you arrive, this is the specific time, I will have finished. And for actions that will be ongoing at a specific future time, use the continuous. At 3 p.m. tomorrow, I'll be attending a conference. So notice here, we have no specific time, okay? Notice here, we're talking about before a time. And notice here, the will be, so I will be attending, it's at a specific time. So keep these points in mind when you're talking about future tense. And then step three, we construct the sentence or we choose a correct answer. Okay. So before we go in, let's talk about incorrect use of future verbs. Number one, using future verb tense for general truths or habitual actions. Remember, something for truth or habitual action receives the present tense form. The sun will rise in the east. No, this is wrong. It's something that always happens. The sun rises in the east. Another mistake, using future tense verbs for scheduled events. Okay, the train will leave at 6:30 p.m. This is actually incorrect. It's a scheduled event, so it takes the present. The train leaves at 6:30 p.m. Also, number three, using the wrong form of the future tense. By next month, you notice a specific time, right? I will have completed. So the original is wrong. So be careful, avoid using the wrong tense. Another mistake, mixing tenses inappropriately. Incorrect. Yesterday, I will go. Do not mix tenses. If it's future, it'll be future. It'll show you it's future tense. If it's past, keep it in the past. Do not mix tenses. Now, with these 3 points, I won't cover all of them now. That's it, really. So, future tense verbs. Now we're going to go into modal verbs. So, modal verbs are a bit different. Modal verbs are used to express various meanings, such as ability, permission, obligation, and possibility. Okay? For example, you must to express what? Must to express strong obligation, logical conclusion, or certainty. There's a difference between these modal verbs. Modal verbs are Must, might, could, would. All these mean different things. Number two, can. When do we use can? For ability, he can solve problems. For permission, can I leave early? For possibility, exposure to loud noise can cause. Could. Could is the past of can. Could is the past of can. Same thing. Past ability, polite permission, possibility. When she was a child, she could recite. Could I borrow your notes from yesterday's class? If we take this route, if we could reach the destination. Number four, may. When do we use may? Permission. You may leave the room. Possibility. The weather forecast says it may snow. And should. When do we use should? For advice or recommendation. You should exercise regularly to maintain good health. Expectation. The package should arrive here. Now, remember, modal verbs behave differently in the past tense. Most modal verbs in the past tense are followed by have. They're followed by have plus past participle. For example, you should have informed. You see, modal verb, have, past participle, about the change in plans. Exceptions include modal verbs expressing obligation, ability, lack of necessity, and specific past tense forms. For example, you must read. You don't say must have read. You must read. Okay? Now, incorrect use of modal verbs. Number one, using the wrong modal verb for intended meaning. So for example, you must attend the party if you have time. No, must is a obligation, something that you cannot say no to. You should attend the party. So notice the difference in meaning. Using a modal verb in the wrong form. I could went. No, I could have gone. Using a modal verb unnecessarily. I may have a car so I can drive to work. I mean, why are we saying may? Right? May is a 50-50 chance. We're not having chances here, right? And number four, using a modal verb with the incorrect verb form. He must goes. No, must go. So make sure you avoid these mistakes. Make sure you avoid these mistakes. Now, common mistakes with modal verbs. So as a tutor, I see many international students, and so I gathered a bunch of these things, right? Using would instead of will for future. Would is for the past. Will is for the future, right? I think it would snow tomorrow. It's incorrect. I think it will snow. Confusing can and may for permission. I mean, this is not a big deal, right? You must instead of have to for external obligations. So must is for you. It's your own obligation. Have to is for other people or something you have to do outside. Okay? So remember, must is something I do for myself. I must read. I must work out. I must go take care of my food. But have to is for other things outside of myself. I have to do my taxes. I have to meet this deadline. Number four, forgetting to use the base form of the verb after the modal. So for example, she can plays. No, you have to say she can play. The base form is the infinitive form, okay? Using would instead of should for advice. You would study harder to improve your grades. No, would is a past condition. You should study. Should is used for recommendations, okay? So to avoid these mistakes, make sure to practice identify correct tense forms, pay attention to meaning, remember to use the base form of the verb, engage in writing exercises and practice, such as the testavedage.com. Okay. Finally, question and answer time. Common question. When should I use will for the future actions? Use will for spontaneous decisions made at the moment. predictions or expectations, promises, offers, or requests. When should I use going to? This won't really come for your test, so I wouldn't worry about this. How do I form the future perfect tense? Form the future perfect tense using will have. By 2030, now remember here, remember, specific time. I will have graduated. When we have a specific time, then make sure you use the future perfect. When should I use may versus might? Use may for higher probability and might for lower probability. Again, this all differs. I may go to the party. I might go to the party. May, more likely. Might, less likely. Question number 5. How do I express strong obligation using modal verbs? Use must. And when should I use can versus could? Can is for the present tense. Could is for the past tense. So this was future tense, verbs, and modals for your digital SAT. Please jump into the practice so you can learn anything. Mr. Sam out.